The wind crawled low across the valley that morning, carrying dust, dew, and the scent of coming rain. A small wooden bridge creaked beneath the weight of years, while the river below whispered to itself, soft, endless, ancient. Down by the water's edge, a woman worked alone. Her name was Clara Hensley, though few called her by name anymore. Most folks just referred to her as that quiet woman by the old mill. She had hands that told stories, calloused, rough, and scarred from work no woman should have to bear alone. Her hair was tangled from the wind. Her dress faded from too many washings in cold creek water. But there was strength in her silence, something fierce beneath the gentleness. She was scrubbing clothes against a rock when she heard the sound, hooves in the distance. She didn't look up right away. Men rode through these parts often enough, farmhands, drifters, bounty hunters, but the rhythm of these hoofbeats was different, steady, heavy, the kind of rhythm that belonged to a man who knew his horse well, who didn't ride for show but for purpose. When the rider came into view, the light from the rising sun framed him like a painting out of some old legend. A tall man with a dust-worn hat, a long brown duster coat, and eyes that saw everything but said nothing. His horse was black as the storm clouds creeping over the ridge. The man slowed as he reached the river, tipping his hat slightly toward her. "Morning," he said, voice deep and calm, the kind of voice that could steady a frightened colt. Clara nodded but didn't speak. The man dismounted, crouching near the water to let his horse drink. For a few minutes there was only silence, the steady lap of the river, the horse's breaths, and the soft rasp of cloth on stone. Then, without looking up, she asked quietly, "You heading north?" "Maybe," the man replied. "Depends what's waiting for me there." She paused, wringing water from a shirt. "Aren't we all waiting for something that never quite comes?" That made him look up. He studied her for a long moment, not in the way most men looked at women, but as though he was trying to see the truth of her words. "Name's Cole Maddox," he finally said. "You from around here?" "Been here too long to remember," she answered, voice barely above a whisper. Cole leaned on his knee, glancing at the half-built fence behind her cabin. "You fixing that place up alone?" Clara gave a small, almost embarrassed laugh. "I don't fix it up, I just keep it from falling apart." Something about her honesty, so bare and quiet, hit him harder than a bullet could. He saw the way her hands trembled from cold, the smudge of dirt on her cheek, the tear at her sleeve. But he also saw the stubborn dignity in the way she stood, the way she refused to complain or beg. "I can lend a hand," he offered. She shook her head quickly. "Don't need charity." Cole smiled faintly, brushing dust from his coat. "Wasn't offering charity, ma'am. Just figured maybe 2 sets of hands. Build fences faster than one." For the first time, she looked at him, really looked. His face was rough, marked by sun and scars. His beard was unkempt, his eyes shadowed. He didn't look like the kind of man who gave things freely. He looked like the kind who'd buried friends, made enemies, and seen too much to speak of it. And yet, standing there, he felt safe, solid. That night, the storm came, the kind that turns dirt roads into rivers and shakes the trees until they bow. Cole had tied his horse near the barn and was chopping kindling when she stepped onto the porch with a lantern. "You can stay in the shed if you need," she called through the rain. He didn't move for a second, watching the rain streak down her face. "Much obliged," he said. Inside, as thunder rolled through the mountains, Clara sat near the fire, her mind restless. It had been years since a man had crossed her porch, who wasn't selling something or threatening worse. She'd lost her husband 3 winters ago to a fever that came quick and cruel, leaving her with memories and land she never wanted. Life had hardened around her like frozen ground, and yet tonight something felt different. The next morning she found him already awake, fixing the broken fence with quiet precision. He didn't ask questions, didn't pry into her life. He just worked, steady, patient, deliberate. By noon, they had repaired nearly half of what she'd struggled with for months. "You work like you're running from something," she said finally, wiping sweat from her brow. "Maybe I am," he said simply. She studied him for a long moment. "You don't look like a bad man." He paused, hammer mid-swing. "That's what makes it confusing sometimes." Days turned into a rhythm. They worked, shared small meals, spoke little. There was a comfort in the silence between them, a kind of understanding only people who'd seen loss could share. But it was one evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky burned gold, that something shifted. They were sitting outside, the sound of crickets and the river filling the quiet. She stared into the dying light and whispered, "I'm not pretty." Cole turned his head slightly, surprised by the suddenness of it. "What makes you say that?" She smiled sadly. "People don't need to say it. Life does, the mirror does, work does, time does." He didn't speak for a moment. Then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low and certain. "That's fine," he said. "I need honest, not fancy." The words hung in the air between them. Simple, raw, unpolished, but they landed deep. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not pitied, not judged. Just seen. Clara looked down at her hands, trembling a little. "You don't mean that." "I don't say what I don't mean," he replied. "Fancy fades. Honest stays." She turned away, hiding tears she hadn't expected. Somewhere in her chest, something long locked away cracked open, and as the night deepened and the fire burned low, the quiet around them became something softer. The next few weeks changed them both. They rebuilt her barn, mended fences, planted seeds before the frost. Neighbors began to whisper about the stranger who'd taken up work at Clara's place, but she didn't care. For the first time since her husband's death, she laughed again, small. Reluctant laughs that slipped out like secrets. Cole never crossed lines. He never tried to charm her. He just worked beside her, respected her space, and stayed true to his word. And in that steadiness she found something stronger than love. Trust. But trust out in the wild country was always tested. One cold morning, 3 riders came down the ridge, men Cole recognized. They weren't friends. They were ghosts from a past he'd tried to bury. When Clara saw the fear flicker in his eyes, she knew trouble was close. He turned to her quietly. "You might want to stay inside." "Who are they?" she asked. "People who think they're owed something." Before the sun set that day, bullets would fly, truths would surface, and Clara would learn that the man who fixed her fence wasn't just a drifter. He was running from something darker than either of them had guessed. And yet, even as danger rode closer, one truth stayed steady as the river. She no longer saw herself as broken or plain. Because someone had looked at her and seen more, someone had chosen honest, not fancy.